Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates Celtic's worldwide reach. And we're back with a boom. I've been away. We're back with a boom. Is that what you say? We're back with a bang. I've been away. The shows have carried on miraculously. And I'm back now to take total control, and everything's going to be incredibly smooth, which you wouldn't have believed if you'd seen me about half an hour ago with no microphone and no camera working. So I'm using my webcam that's inbuilt, so it looks kind of different from normal, but hopefully everyone can hear us and see us. We'll say hello to everyone in the comments in a second, but let's reconnect with Monday's A-team. Stephen in Australia. What up, Steve-O?
Yeah, great to have you back, Gav. You were very badly missed in your absence, but there was all sorts of dramas trying to get the shows on the go. I'm sure it appeared to everyone to be seamless and professional, but there was a few minor glitches in the background, but we managed, and it's good to have the main man back again.
Well, come on, we're all equal here, David, are we not?
It was good to have you back, though. Yeah, welcome back, Gav. Hi, Stephen, Brian, people in the chat. Looking forward to a nice discussion for the next hour or so. Cheers.
Well, it's good to catch up with you guys. But Brian, it's not like we haven't seen each other recently, eh?
Were you away? No, it was great to meet up, Gav, and I wish I had more time. Is there anything else? I should have maybe phoned in sick that Monday and had a few more pints, but sure. It's all good. Good to see you, man. Good to see you back. But also good to see you in the flesh.
Flesh indeed. I'll show some pictures of my travels in a moment. You can enjoy the flesh of those. This is the run sheet for today. Uncle Travelling Mac, which is a sort of reference to a show we probably all enjoyed many years ago. Anyone get that reference? It's Uncle Travelling Matt. Is the original
That's a new
reference.
One on me.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder, does anyone in the comments know? Anyway, second is Killie game. We'll be talking about that. And third, Say What You See. I think there's a few of those images that weren't used while I was away. So we can use those, the guess the player identity.
Oh, brilliant.
And then Celtic socials. Uncle Travelling Matt is from Fraggle Rock. Remember that?
Never watched it. Didn't like the Muppets. Was more Sesame Street Man, and I particularly didn't like Fulton Mackay in it. He gave me the fear as a kid because I watched Porridge and he just
he was a stern Scottish man, wasn't he? Now we're surrounded by them, Brian.
Fulton Mackay. I mean, you have to hazard a guess that it was a Hun with a name like that. I mean, I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about him, but I think I'd be pretty close to the mark with that one.
I think there was a reference in Porridge once that he mentioned something. I don't know if it was Porridge the movie or the series, but he was Fletcher Ronnie Barker character started winding up Fulton Mackay about us. I suppose you're off down to the Celtic match this evening, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and all that. But there we go.
Well, there's a bit of nudge, nudge, wink, winking going on in the comments. John Clements said, I took off time to concentrate on my songwriting. That is not true. Mahesh, who I used to like, says, I, for one, didn't miss Gav singing at all. Dear, oh dear. You stick to your statistics, Mahesh. You've no idea of music whatsoever. But there's lots of people in the comments there saying hello. Hello to you all. Good to be back. Good to see you back. The show wouldn't be anything without you. All right, so where have I been? Well, as we've already teased, Brian and I met up. Let me see if I can share this image. There's me and Brian outside the Celtic shop in Belfast, where I got this top that I'm wearing and various other things. Brian very kindly passed me an envelope full of stuff, and this was it. Bunch of old programs and magazines, and a lovely little Smith's. Go ahead.
Is that the Seville program on the left-hand side there?
No, it's the Barcelona one.
All right, okay.
I think it's the one. Well, it's home, so I think it might have been the draw. It was one each.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ronaldinho's on the cover.
Ronaldinho.
So thank you very much for those.
Like the one, the Aberdeen one, Gav. There's a bit of a stain on it. I don't know. 1983.
Well, as long as it's not a razzle kind of stain.
No, definitely not. No.
All right, and then what else happened? Oh, well, then went from Belfast over to Glasgow, and the day of the match, this is my son outside of bar 67. Didn't get in. Went to go in and were quickly told to get the heck out. No kids allowed. So we went across the road to the Gallowgate. Do you know that place, either of you two Scotsmen? Which was much nicer, actually. Place to have a pint, I thought. Very pleasant. And all the while we were waiting for the late arrival of a certain Kaiser, who eventually showed up in something of a, well, he was in good spirits, let's say. He was in high spirits. And then this is us inside Celtic Park, having a couple of pints. So it was great to see Kaiser in the flesh. He's an effusive sort of character, it's fair to say. He's quite vocal. But
well, you didn't tell me you were in the posh seats.
We were in very posh seats.
You were indeed.
Oh, yeah. No, they were fantastic. Well, they were a gift and fantastic seats. As they were in Northeast Executive entrance, and you got pints and food and all that before the game, halftime. Really amazing. So that's where that was taken. This was the Hearts game, of course. The seats were very good, and you can tell that from the view that we had. That's the view. But I got to tell you, the weather was absolutely horrific. I don't know how much that came across on TV, but the wind, the rain was just blowing in on top of us. Absolutely freezing. Now, I have become a total tropical softy. I can't handle the weather at home at all. It's fucking stayed in me. As somebody pointed out, I was layered up to the nines. My nose still hasn't recovered. You know what? You ever go skiing up to the mountains and your bogies all become bloody? I've had that for like the past 3 weeks, just from the weather in Scotland and Ireland. Pulling out burnt pizza toppings out of my neb. It's not very pleasant. So, I was absolutely frozen stiff. Mark Nisbet saying, good to see me back. It was amateur hour while I was gone. Dear, oh dear. Come on now. That's not nice. What else happened in Scotland? We'll get through this quickly. I went to a couple of bookshops, football refereeing in Scotland. Considered buying this. It was humorously close to this, which I thought was quite amusing.
Yeah.
And I also note that in Glasgow Airport, the Celtic shop is like twice the size of the Rangers one. Rangers has one entrance. Celtic has two. Is that quite telling? What does that tell you, Stephen?
It is. Well, I mean, for years and years, I don't think there was a Rangers shop in Glasgow Airport. I think that's a fairly recent development. I think it was for a long time. It was only Celtic that was there. In fact, last time I was back in Scotland, which was a long time ago. Granted, that was the case. There was no Rangers shop in Glasgow Airport. So I'm assuming, obviously, Celtic's merchandise operation is far bigger than Rangers. And I think that's probably reflected in the size of the shops.
And then it was on to Italy, where I met up with this fella. Recognize him? Who's that?
Mickey.
Mickey, that's me and Mickey having a few Peronis near Campo dei Fiori in Rome. So it was great to catch up with him there as well. So 3 Celtic World contributors I managed to tick off. Yet to meet Stephen in the flesh, yet to meet David in the flesh. But our day will come, David, eh?
Definitely.
Shouldn't be hard.
I'm trying to organise I'm putting the feelers out at the minute. If my wife would let me go, I'm trying to put it down. I need to go 10 days over to Davs and so on and so forth to spread the word. But I don't think she's going to buy it. All you can do is ask. Tour the CSCs, drop into Stephen and David and the other David and your good self. Keep doing the
Absolutely.
lottery.
Well, hello to everyone who's joining us. Who's the snitch? 420 somewhere. Big Des, Maestro, all the regulars. Too many to mention. All right. So anyway, sorry about that. Shall we get on with the game?
Sure thing.
All right. So let's start with you then, Stephen. 7 minutes. First moment of note. You love a nice early goal for Celtic. Real Hatate didn't let you down.
Yeah, great goal. Great strike. And something we've been bemoaning over the past few weeks is the lack of shooting ability from outside the box. It looks as if we just forgot to do it, and it's all kind of rolled back to us in one game, I think. So he's found the top corner absolutely magnificently after some really good work by Greg Taylor, who was outstanding, particularly in the first half. But that was an absolute belter of a goal and unsavable right in the postage stamp. So great goal by Hatate.
You can see there where it hits the net, David. Do you think Brendan was telling the players to shoot a bit more often, have a crack?
Yeah, possibly. I was a bit worried when you did your previous slide there that you might have been maybe saying that it was teeing up for a cross or something, but I think it was a brilliant shot by Hatate. For me, it was very reminiscent of the goal that Larsson scored against St Johnstone. He came in off the left wing, beat a man, and then curled it, an unstoppable shot into
the Harold Bratback 2-0.
Yeah. It was very, very similar to that. But yeah, it was a fantastic goal by a fantastic player. Great to see.
Good one too from Taylor.
Yep.
Just had to give him the recognition. He was fantastic.
Do we want to mention his baby this stage? What do we draw into that he was seen carrying his 2-month-old out full Celtic strip?
I think I hope to God, and I think he's going to stay. You don't do that. Why would you ingratiate yourself with the Celtic family and then go across the road? It's just unthinkable. I think he'd stay. I don't know. I understand he wants to be first choice and probably does deserve an opportunity, even first choice in the SPL. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he'd stay? I mean, that was.
No, I don't think so. I think he's gone. I think I'm not quite sure what the baby on the park is all about at that age. I mean, it's not as if you're giving him an experience to remember or something like that. I really don't understand why you would bring a more or less a newborn baby onto the park like that. But each to their own. And it's been a long time since I was a father of a baby that age, so maybe I've just lost touch with the emotion of it. But I look, Greg Taylor was great yesterday on the weekend. He was fantastic, playing against a team who offered almost nothing in attack. Greg Taylor's deficiencies are defensive. They're certainly not in how he plays that inverted fullback role, and he can do that to great effect. We know that, and I don't think we learned anything new by him playing that way, and he was the best player in the park for me anyway. But I just don't think he's good enough defensively to take us to where we need to go. He gets targeted almost constantly against teams who play more on the front foot against us, like in Europe. And he'll continue to be showed up at that level, and he's just not in the same stratosphere as Kieran Tierney is. And that's just the fact of the matter. Now, I don't believe for a minute Greg Taylor would be quite happy to sit behind Kieran Tierney and play off the bench and play a sort of Tony Ralston role. I think he probably rates himself a bit higher than that, and fair enough for that. So I think he'll go. I don't hold any grudge against him. I just think we need better, and we have better coming in.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, David. Do you want to sound a more tender note about the appearance of his cherub?
I was thinking it was just so the fans wouldn't boo him.
Jeez. What a bunch of old cynics we have here.
Yeah,
Oh, God. I mean, I tell you, what I think it is he's definitely coming to the end of his Celtic career, and he just wants to lay a marker in time, in the future, and say, that was you as a wee baby. That was just while I was a Celtic player before I went on to Zagreb and then AC Milan and then Real Madrid or whatever his career trajectory will be. And yeah, it's all good. I thought it's nice for him. It helps people see his human side and all that, or maybe it softens some fans' views of him anyway. The haters might sort of be a bit quieter for the time being. But I think Stephen's probably right generally when he says he'll be off. He's been good for us. We can probably do better. He thinks he can do better. So it's all good. The parting of the ways. Back to the game then. All right. So that was 7 minutes. We got the first goal. 10 minutes. David. Alistair Johnson crossing here. And who gets on the end of it ultimately? Simple tap in for Dyson Maida.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was good to see Johnston Black playing well. I thought the first half. I mean, everyone played well. The first 20 minutes we were unplayable, but having that, I think it was Engels who put the ball through to Johnston for that one, or maybe it was the next one, and then it was an excellent cross, and then Maeda just taps it in. I would have loved it to have been Ida to get a goal for his confidence. But Maeda's in the right place at the right time, and keeps the goals coming.
Pretty simple tap in, Brian. Even you could have scored that.
Oh, you never know. I'll probably hit the bar. Story of my life, Gav, eh?
All right, very good. So then we're 2-0 up after 10 minutes and cruising. It's all going wonderfully. And what could make the day any better than that? Well, maybe Cameron Carter-Vickers stepping up and smacking one from here. Outrageous, Brian.
Absolute worldly. Great assist from Liam Scales.
Right.
It's a FIFA kind of goal, and as he said at the end, I could do it 100 times, but it went in this one time. And I remember when his debut, he scored a goal similar, not that type of trajectory, but he scored from outside the box. I don't know who he was. Come on as a sub, and he was on loan, but that's an absolute immense goal, and just shows you it can happen. So let's do more of it. Delighted for the big fella.
Takes us back to what we were saying about whether Brendan was telling them to hit it a bit more often or earlier. Stephen, did you see his, was it the pre-match interview where Cameron Carter-Vickers spoke? And you often don't get much out of him, but what did you detect from that interview?
I didn't see it, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
So, unfortunately.
Did anyone?
Yeah. He seemed a bit angry, I thought.
Yeah.
He seemed a bit, we know what we're doing and all the rest. It's a bit of a hiccup against St. Johnston, but have faith, He seemed to be a bit,
He seemed to me like he was saying, the manager told us, he wasn't happy and we need to do this and do that. But as far as I'm concerned, it was a pretty good performance against St. Johnston. It's just the ball didn't go in. So he was almost, he wasn't quite, towing the party line and sucking up to Brendan. It was, there was a little bit of pushback.
Yeah, the way he called him the manager
and
didn't call him Brendan. Remember if we go back to the Matt O'Reilly interview about Ange and about Brendan, he goes, yeah, Brendan, it's great to have him here. And I can't remember what the actual quote was, but or something along the lines of at least Brendan talks to us, something along those lines. But I wouldn't read too much into it.
Look, I think if that's what he said, then I think he's quite right. I don't think it was that bad a performance against St Johnstone. They created enough chances to win 5 games. We just didn't get the ball in the net. And, you know, the only thing you can really say about them is they conceded a soft goal early on, which they shouldn't have, and that was poor. But after that, you know, they dominated the game. I think they had something like 80% possession or something like that, and numerous shots in target, numerous shots in goal, and the St Johnstone keeper had a great game. And there was a bit of wastefulness from us in front of goal, particularly from the likes of Hatate, who missed a couple of really good chances. But you know, I don't think it wasn't the sort of end of the world performance that many among our support sort of perceived it to be. And I think Carter Vickers is probably quite correct in that. But it was good if he's angry. I'm glad he's angry, because you know he should be angry. When people sort of quit, because he's given his sort of commitment was being questioned by some people, whether he gave 100%. Not only him, but various players in the team were being questioned, particularly sort of seasoned pros like CCV and Alistair Johnson. They were being called out by name by some, and I didn't think they were that bad, and I didn't think the team was that bad. Never good to lose to a team that's bottom of the table, but it happens, and it's happened to every manager in the history of Celtic and every Celtic team, even the very good ones. I remember Brendan Rodgers' first spell at the club. We lost 4-0 to Hearts at Tynecastle to bring a long unbeaten run to an end, and that was grim. That was a terrible performance, but as I say, it happens, and you just need to look to what we've achieved this season and look at the amount of trophies that are going to be sitting in the cabinet, and to decide whether it's been a successful season or not.
Yeah, you know, since I've been away, there's been loads of gurning from various, you know, sections of the fan base and people in the Celtic world and everything. And like, don't want this to come across in the wrong way, but you know, I can understand why at this level of sporting excellence, when you've got to the point where you've practically won the league and the Champions League's finished and all that, it's understandable that you're not going to be trying 100%, really. You know, it's that at this level of sports, psychology is very important. So a few little slip-ups here and there, I don't particularly care. You know, I had a feeling after the end of the Champions League that this season, bar the Scottish Cup, is now pretty much over, and I've been kind of relaxed about what happens between now and then. Now, I get what people are saying about paying fans, going to the games. You know, they deserve to get their money's worth. The players have to give everything. But, you know, is it understandable that they're not, you know, flying across the line, David?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Liverpool in the English Premiership, I mean, their form's been mediocre at best the last few games. They've got no competition. You know, every time Arsenal play, they draw, or whoever else is in that league. The standard of the football there has really been quite low, I think, this year. And you can see Liverpool, they're kind of half turning up for these games, and it's been shown in their performances. I mean, I watched a bit of their game yesterday against West Ham. They kind of scraped over the line. They could have been battered in the second half, and I think that's been a bit similar to what we've been doing ourselves. I mean, we're 15 points clear. We've been 15 points clear pretty much since November. You know, it's been a one-horse race, and so I guess to keep the team motivated. I mean, it was only 2 months ago that we were a ball hair away from taking Bayern Munich to extra time. That was our last real meaningful game. So yeah, I mean, I think you know, we've got the St Johnstone Cup game, and that's pretty much it until the Champions League qualifiers.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get back to the game. Again, I don't want to sound a note of negativity, but could the keeper have done more, Brian, to keep this out, or was it just too good? Look at where the ball goes in.
You know, there was a good bit of swerve on it. You know what I mean? I don't even think CCV knew how good of a shot it was. Yeah, you know, I'll always back the players, and certainly the Celtic players, over a goalkeeper. But the goalie, you know, he'd let one in previously. Hatate had a worldie, so you know, you only play what's in front of you. So I'll give the striker, centre half, club association. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right. Okay. Let's move it on then. Stephen, 23 minutes. Jamesy gets a wee volleyed touch here, which opens everything up.
Yeah, it's another great move down the right hand side, and we were really carving them up at this point, and it was just fantastic play. This one, I think is it Alistair Johnson there gets on the end of a 1-2 from Forrest and finds Hatate in the box, who's got the presence of mind to take a touch, send the keeper and the defenders the wrong way, and find the opposite corner. So a fantastic piece of play. I think Engels was involved in the build up to that goal as well, and Engels was outstanding as well down that right hand side. And the connections between Forrest, Johnson, and Engels were great the whole first half. And I think most of our success came down that side, but that was a really good goal.
Was a really good goal. When the ball came to Hatate there, David, you know, the world stopped, didn't it? Everything stopped, and you're just like, oh, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? And he just moves it to the side. Defender totally commits himself, and then just plays it casually into the corner.
It's quite embarrassing watching a professional footballer having that lack of composure. You can see how much he was panicking, Hatate. You know, I mean, get a grip. You know, it was magnificent skill. You know, he just first touch, you know, put the defender on his backside, and then he just slots the ball home. Absolutely fantastic. You know, it could have been a hat trick later on as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see. All right. And as somebody mentioned earlier on there, someone who's not the biggest fan of Hatate, I don't know where the comment's gone, but they said they were applauding, cheering Hatate on, maybe for the second time this season, the person said. So even his greatest critics have to concede he was looking the business on that game, Brian, wasn't
he? Yeah, he seems to turn it on and turn it off, I suppose, and that's the frustrating thing about Hatate. He has, probably on his day, he's the best player in Scotland. You know, certainly technically, and you know, but it's trying to get that consistency out of him. I think he needs just a big animal in there beside him, just kicking all around him and let him do his thing. You know, it's like, you know, you look at Lubo Moravcik, and Moravcik was didn't really do too much tackling, like, but he didn't really need to, because he had Lennon in there and he had Bobo and, you know, all the rest of them, useful Heron. So I think if there's somebody there, a combative midfielder, and with Hatate, you'd get a lot more from him. And he has the bravery to try things. And David, remember the goal he scored? We talked about it. Only Rio Hatate could score that goal. I forget, it was like the last kick of the ball. It might have been away to Hibs or something like that, and he just took it on the right peg, perfection. I can't remember the game myself, but it was an important. It might have been away to Aberdeen, was it? I think it was one each, or we were 1-0, and then there was a couple of minutes in.
Yeah, it was away to Aberdeen. He got played in, and he took the ball on the outside of his foot and just found the far corner, and we won the game by the odd goal. So yeah, that was a brilliant goal as well. Funny enough, talking about Hatate, one of the sort of criticisms that's often aimed at him is he looks as if he's not that bothered, and he doesn't really care. But I tuned into one of the Celtic Exchange podcasts last week when they were doing the sort of the rejig of the St Johnstone game and picking over it a bit. And one of those guys mentioned that somebody they knew had been out for lunch on the day after the St Johnstone game, and Rio Hatate had happened to be in the same place where they were eating, and he had a laptop with him, and he was actually watching a rerun of the game. Now, that's I mean, that all usual caveats apply. If that's all true, then I don't think that really tells the story of a guy that doesn't really care. And for me, watching that game once was enough. It was more than enough. But he's come in for a lot of criticism of what he did and didn't do, and he did miss a couple of chances. And if he's sitting in a lunch or a cafe or something, watching a rerun of that game, that tells a story of a guy who's really committed to improving his own game, and he's really committed to the club. So I don't think that's a fair thing that can be levelled at him. He is inconsistent. He has his off games, and I think that's what frustrates a lot of people. But if you can't see the ability there, if you can't see that there's a top class player in there when he does hit his straps, then I don't think football's the sport for you, because it's absolutely clear that he's got an absolute baller when he's on his game. It's just that he's not on it all the time.
He seems to be an emotional type of punter. And you remember, I look back at when he came off injured against, I think it was Bayern. Remember he came off injured, and Brendan gave him a big hug, and then he injured himself in the Asian Cup, and he came out with a statement saying, "Oh, I don't think I'm good enough for this level." And there's something about him. He keeps himself firmly on the ground. You would imagine he's a self-deprecating type of guy. Whereas you look at others with the score of the goal, they're all jumping around like maniacs. Whereas him, he just sort of, I've scored. Even when he scored against his debut was against Hearts, wasn't it, at home? Mm-hmm. And he scored again the following week against the Mankey mob. And he, if it was me, I'd be doing knee slides, handstands, flipping, jumping into the crowd.
No knee slides allowed, Brian. Come on.
Not with my knees. But he just seems to be very kind of grounded. You know what I mean?
I think he attracts a lot of attention, his body language and that. He walked off after the Hearts game that I was at there recently with his arms folded, and people were saying, "Oh, look at him, he's huffing, he's got his arms folded."
Probably freezing.
Freezing. My arms were folded almost the entire time, It was fucking brutal. So, and that's another thing about going back and being there when the weather was so crap. Makes you appreciate what the players go through every winter, We even went up to Lennoxtown for a laugh, took a wee drive up to Lennoxtown, and got to the point where you're not supposed to go up the private road, but we went up it anyway because there was nothing to stop us. But the weather was so bad, we got to the point where you can sort of see the building, right? And you can see the land is built up to be flat and fenced off, the pitches and that. But the weather was so bad, I couldn't even get out of the car to go and have a wee look over the fence or through the fence. And I was thinking, especially the foreign players that come over and they have to train up there and the wind is howling and the rain's blowing at them. They earn their money, is my conclusion. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly do earn, they do earn their money, but it is an awful lot of money that they're earning. So,
yeah.
And they don't. Let's be
I'd
clear.
Get out of the car for 30 grand a week or whatever.
Yeah, there's some very nice indoor training facilities up there as well. So I'm sure they're not completely exposed to the elements all the time, and they get their lunch made for them, they get their breakfast made for them, and they've got people there looking after their every need. So I wouldn't be feeling too sorry for them, Gav.
No, I don't feel sorry for them, but anyway, I was suffering, and let's carry on with the game. 28 minutes. Jeez, we're still in the first half, lads.
Yeah. Armstrong.
Yeah. Gains a yard on Taylor, isn't it? Yes, I think it is. Stephen. And then he floats one in. And where does it end up?
Yeah.
Back of the net.
Yeah, it's in the back of the net. But I really don't think he meant that. I think he was hanging that up there for someone to go on the back post header. But when you do that, there's always a possibility it's going to drop in. If you were going to find fault, it was a bit of a fluke, to be honest with you. But if you're going to find fault with anyone, I would say I think it was Jeffrey Sloop that gave him a yard there to get the cross in. And no, sorry, Sloop wasn't on, so it was Taylor. You're right. And I think the keeper didn't cover himself with glory either. I think the keeper sort of was caught in a bit by surprise there. I thought he could have been a little bit more decisive. I don't think he was expecting it to drop in at the back post, and by the time he reacted, it was a little bit too late.
How would you describe his performance, Stephen? Sinisalo for that goal.
Yeah, it was not great. I mean, yeah, a bit pish. I wouldn't not completely pish. Not completely pish, but a little bit pish. But yeah, I should have done better.
Yeah, don't think he meant it. I wouldn't blame Sinisalo too much. He was good. It was good. He was the keeper of the game that I went to, so it's good to see him. Quite vocal, confident, seeming.
Is he big?
All right. Yeah, he seems pretty big. I'll tell you who else seemed big. Engels looked a lot bigger than I thought he would, and the one thing that struck me was the difference between the way Engels moves and the way Bernardo moves. When you see them in the flesh, Bernardo is so silky looking, just the way he moves and the way he strokes the ball and jogs around the place. He looks, really just classy, like a classy athlete. Engels is a bit more clodhoppery.
What do we think about the fact that Bernardo hasn't got off the bench the last two games? I found that quite interesting.
Bad for him. Yeah, quite interesting. It's disappointing for him. Kaiser's comment.
I can't believe he's commenting.
Kaiser's also bigger than I thought, I have to say. That's the thing about being on these shows is you get to choose your camera angle and you work on your lighting and everything. I'd say we're all probably a fair bit bigger in real life than we make ourselves appear. I know I am. I think the same is true of Kaiser. Maybe Paul as well. How about you, Stephen? Have you got a massive belly when you stand up?
I'm not going to show you.
I say Paul, I meant Stephen.
I'd say Stephen's body. I'd say your body fat is probably about 13%.
Stephen is lean.
You're lean, mean fat.
I'm quite lean now. I haven't always been lean, but I'm quite lean now. Yeah.
Around the waist also. Very good. John Clements asking, did Kaiser and Gav go to the loo together? It's a strange question. The answer is yes, but never mind. All right, 77. What's this one? 92 minutes. The ball from Hatate. We flicked ball to someone who apparently in our group chat is now referred to as, what is it, Ral Dog?
Ral Dog, yeah.
I've never heard that before. But then he was fantastic. The ball came to him. And
I love the way he placed the ball.
Did a wee bit of jinking.
He didn't blast it. He placed it. And he does score goals. I like him. I think he's a great pro. And I would like him to start more often than not. He's a great guy. He's fit. He's reliable. He's a Scottish international. He's a great number 2. But for how long?
And so he got the goal there, despite Jota's best efforts, as you can see, to try and get a touch on it, pad out his stats a bit.
Yeah, I think it'd been interesting. When I first saw that goal going in, I wondered if Jota had got a touch, and I wondered if he was offside, and that would have been bad if he had got a touch on it and he'd ended up getting a goal ruled out for offside. But yeah, it was good. Nice goal from Ralston. I think Brian's right. I think he's a good professional. I don't think he's up to the task of starting every week, but I'm surprised that he hasn't had any starts at all recently. I think that was his first minutes at all for a month or so, I think. And, I think, given the fact that Johnson's been off for him, I'd expect him to maybe come in at least for a few substitute appearances, which hasn't happened.
All right. So 40 minutes gone, and we've only just gotten through the game. There's some of the stats for you, David. It was very convincing, record-breaking day in many ways.
Yeah, more than 1,000 passes. So the biggest number of passes in our history, I think, in any single game. Yeah, it was a great performance. Second half was a bit quiet, obviously, but the game had been put to bed, so nothing to particularly worry about.
Yeah, that's kind of a microcosm of the season, if you ask me. You know what I was saying earlier? It's understandable that a second half isn't ever as intense as the first if you're multiple goals up after the first half. That's a bit like, the season, the league practically being in the bag. And then, you take your eye off the ball in a few games. You're not quite as intense. You don't want it as much as some of the other oppositions.
If you listen to Derek McInnes after the game, he basically said that they got absolutely outclassed. I mean, Derek McInnes is a twat of the highest order, right? But his post-match interview wasn't too bad on this occasion. He normally just complains about everything, but on this occasion, he sort of fessed up that Celtic were just miles better in the first half, and they just couldn't get near them. And he just said they went in at half time and said, "Look, let's try and keep the second half scoreless." So they went man for man. They didn't have any intention of trying to put, commit any men forward. So they just sat in defensively and tried to make the second half 0-0, and they almost did up to the injury time goal from Ralston. So difficult for Celtic to create openings. Partly because what you say, Gav. Obviously the intensity drops a bit, but also Kilmarnock just set out not to lose any more goals. And I think that sort of played its part.
What did you think? What did you think of the substitutions and the guys that come on? I don't think Schlupp has done himself any favours coming on. Jota again was a bit off the mark. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying it as I see it. And then Kuhn for Ida. If it had been me, if I had been benched, I'd have been coming on like a 3-man in a wheel lad just to try and score, try and contribute to the team. Especially as the game's won. You're 4-1 up at half after 60 minutes. And, it was a bit samey from Jota, a bit samey from Kuhn again. But as you say, the game was won and it's hard to motivate yourself. But I would like Celtic to get back to the, 8-9-0 because whenever the second goal went in, I stuck a fiver on over 8.5 goals in the game. Hoping for another 9-0. But you have to take it to take these opportunities when you can.
And tell us about your other bet over the weekend while we're on it.
I got a couple of quid on McIlroy, nothing major. And then it was too
nothing
tired.
Major.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And then
you're one of the masters when it comes to comedy.
Yeah, I cashed out because I was too tired. Had to go to bed. So it wasn't a huge amount. It was only like 20 quid or something, 15, 20 quid. So yeah, it's always nice to win something. Saying that, every other Justin Rose back and all the rest of it. So we've got £1.25 back on him. Had Bryson DeChambeau and a couple of others. But yeah, golf's
back
good
everyone
value,
in the Masters.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Did you see that, Stephen, this morning? For you,
I just saw the sort of the Twitter updates from it. I wasn't watching it. I just saw it coming in. The fact that he completely bottled it on the final hole of the regular, but it went into a playoff and he got over the line there. So yeah, happy to see Rory winning the Masters. But I'm not, I didn't watch it. I wouldn't be that interested in golf to be watching it.
And why is it so significant, David?
Well, it's the career Grand Slam. I think was it the 5th player in history to get it. Yeah. 6th. So yeah, well done to him. I mean, he's been trying. I think it was about 20 ahead 14 years ago, and he hibsed it, and then he's and it went from Hibbsing it to Rorying it. One of my friends texted this morning when I woke up, and it was "Oh Rory" was all he'd written, and I just assumed that he had bottled it again. So no, it was good to see him. I think he could now go on, and they were saying that for the next 3 majors, it's tournaments, it's locations that he's won at over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think the British Open is round the corner from his house in Northern Ireland, Portrush, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So so I think you could double your money, Brian. Go and get him to win the next 3 majors.
Yeah, the form. I mean, not that I'm a golf aficionado, but the quality of his play on Saturday was the best I've ever seen. First couple of holes, birdie and then an eagle. I mean, just unbelievable. It just shows the importance of confidence and having a, what do you call it, Eileen Drury. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Sports psychologist.
Sports, that's the one, Gav. Thank you. But, brilliant, good to see, and he represents Ireland as well. He represents Ireland in the Olympics, so good to see it. I think it's another thing from being from Northern Ireland, and I don't know if the Scottish guys do this, but we're always waiting for somebody to fail. It's in our DNA. It's like Higgins or George Best, the most successful failures. But your man Rory, he's an elite athlete, he's an elite golfer, and people are a bit, he seems like a wee bit of a wee dick, but he's actually all right, not the worst.
He's an absolute legend of the game now. That's amazing. So that's great. Speaking of legends of the game who represent Ireland, here's a post saying something reassuring about seeing Scales and Taylor back yesterday, and both played well. Still frustrating that we can't find better for those roles despite trying. Is that reasonable, Stephen, that comment?
Yes, it's reasonable that we can't find better. It's not reasonable to suggest that both played well yesterday. Greg Taylor played well, but I thought Scales was awful, to be honest. I don't think he done himself any favours at all. 2 passes straight out of the park, I think both in the first half, and I don't think he was particularly good at anything. We were playing against a team who offered very little in attack. He won a couple of physical duels, but his nemesis for Kilmarnock is the boy Vassell, who wasn't playing. He's the guy who usually gives us a bit of trouble up front, but he wasn't playing. And I don't think Scales was good at all. So I think it is reasonable to say we should have better than Scales. And although Taylor did play well, I think we've covered that already, that we have got better than Taylor coming in. But Scales not for me.
Brendan actually came out and said that he was happy with Scales' performance, and he says Taylor man of the match. Brendan, there's always something. Maybe he's aware he had a crap game, but he wants to try and get him back up to the level he was at.
It's fair enough. I mean, fair enough for him to think Scales had a good game, then that's everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I just thought his 2 passes straight out of the park, were just awful for a professional footballer, and just pretty much not acceptable. But I do get the point being made in the tweet that we've signed Austin Trusty, and he doesn't seem to be orders of magnitude better than Scales, and he's arguably worse than Scales at certain aspects of the game, and that's not good.
Yeah. Did anyone hear the thing about Trusty got married before the Hans game, and instead of giving him the time off, like he went on his honeymoon on whatever date, and it was next thing he's back playing. You can hardly really have your head in the game if you're just being married, and then maybe not everyone would knock the champagne back as much as my good self, but you think you want to be away, and then having to come back and play a game. Like, where's your head at? Well, just interesting.
Yeah, the worrying thing about Trusty is that he's exactly what Sheffield United fans said he was. When he signed for us, none of them were particularly annoyed that he left, and I think that's a decent benchmark for judging how a player's going to do. And what they said about him was he was pretty poor physically, and tends to be very inconsistent. And I think that's what we've seen. He's had his moments, like the game away in Atalanta, which was an excellent defensive performance, but in the main, he's been pretty underwhelming. And the fact that he's lost his place into his skills again in the team kind of speaks volumes.
Okay, well, we're going to talk, I suppose, in other end of season games more about, what we expect over the summer transfer window, where we need to improve, who might be out, who might be in. So we can leave that chat for another day, I suppose. Now then, when I logged into StreamYard, I see that there's still 3 pictures here, like player, pictorial representations of past players of Celtic. That fun thing. Say what you see. What do you call it? What do you call that quiz show? Catchphrase.
Yeah.
So tell me, or should I say, stop me if you think that you've seen this one before, Brian. If these were shown while I was away and I didn't watch the episode, it's possible that happened.
Nice reference there.
Right. Have you seen this one?
No.
Okay. Doesn't sound like it. See if you can work it out. Join in there, people in the comments. See if you can tell us.
Do you want me to tell you?
Not yet. Hold it to yourself for a second. But you've definitely got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, John Clements has got it too.
Yeah.
Lou McCurry. Why is that funny? To see Curry and a McDonald's and a toilet all in the one image.
It looks like my breakfast.
She's found the wrong way though, isn't it?
It should be that, yeah.
The order should be reversed.
Yeah. Brilliant. Lou McCurry.
There's not a great deal of love for Lou McCurry, is there, among certain
I like him.
Celtic fan base?
He
really.
does a lot for charity and homelessness, and I think the job was just too big for him. And like, if somebody said to me, Brian, do you want to manage Celtic? Yeah, of course I'm going to take it. It was just bad timing at the club,
He went to my school, did Lou McCurry. Obviously a good few years before me. Actually, my dad, who was a teacher at my school, he was actually he was actually his football coach when he played school football. So there you go. But he was one of these. He was a really good young player for Celtic, but he ran away south of the border at the first sign of money. And when he came back as manager, he came back at a really bad time for the club, and didn't cover himself with glory with some of his comments about the fans, and he didn't get on with the board, and the whole thing just sort of was falling apart pretty quickly at the time. But you're right. He does an awful lot of good work now for homeless people in the Manchester area, and he dedicates his time to that. So clearly a decent guy, and it was just this sort of people's memories of him are a bit tainted by some of the things that happened at Celtic.
When he left to go to Man United, he was due to go to Liverpool. But Shankly had spoke to Steen and all the rest of it. I think at the time, McCarry's father died, and it was I don't know if it was a tradition, but he then became the breadwinner because the mum was at home with the kids, and he literally, I think when he moved down to Manchester, he took the whole family down with him. But I think in terms of Steen offered him, like, he was part of the Quality Street kids, him and Davy Hay and who else, Kenny, and then your guy with a funny haircut. I don't know if he's still alive. He would have been on a Celtic State of Mind. The odd time he built the full-on mod haircut. Forget his name. But he was one of, I think he gets misrepresented a fair bit. But the movie's brilliant. The movie, did you ever see the movie he's in? The movie about the wee guy in Stoke.
No.
It's called Wonderful or something like that. Or Toby Jones is in it. The wee guy, he's a bit strange looking. great film. It's a real heartwarming film. But he does look a bit
Okay.
strange. God love him.
John Clements pointing out McAvenny never misses an opportunity to slag him off, does he?
Yeah.
Every time he's on stage.
McAvenny's a bullshitter as well. He's picks and chooses his moments,
Yeah, McAvenny's an arsehole. I can't get zero time for Frank McAvenny. I was at a function one night down in the Irvine #1 Celtic Supporters Club. It was one of those kind of sportsman's nights. And Frank McAvenny was there, and he was absolutely steamboats. He was absolutely steaming, and they gave him the microphone, and he went rambling on about some old crap, nothing to do with, why he was there. And somebody said, Frank, why don't you talk about Celtic? And he said, "Fuck Celtic," and that went down like a lead balloon. So I was not for me, Frank McAvenny.
What's up, Bats?
Do you like his representation in Scottish comedy, Brian? Remember when he's filling the petrol?
Pump 1 or pump 2?
Yeah,
I'll never know. He's the one with Andy. The one with there was one about didn't Scotland have the Commonwealth Games or something? Didn't they have it back in sort of early 2000s? And he came in, and there was a couple of attractive young lady hostesses. And they said something along the lines of, "Do you want to park here?" And he's like, with the teeth, sorry, actuated there. He says, "Do you want to fill in here?" Or something. It's something really, dubious. And he just turns around and looks at the camera. But no, he's another one sitting on the coattails of Celtic. I love Celtic. Well, why'd you leave? Oh, you left because you got loads of more money and page 3 girls and stuff, and mate, you've got false teeth. Like he dyes his hair blonde and he's got false teeth. A bit like Mickey Rourke, another balloon.
Okay, right. Well, let's carry on. We've got a couple more of these to do.
Yep.
I've got it.
You've got it, David?
Yep.
Anyone else got it?
I've got it.
You've got it, Brian. Stephen not
Yep.
got it? That's unsurprising.
Yeah.
David, you were in first. Do you want to tell us who this is?
Best right back in the world in history.
Ralston. Tony Ralston. How does that work? Go on then.
Monsieur Danny McGrain.
Do you want to break it down for us?
So the guy, I'm assuming that's his father. I'm assuming that's a knee. So he's da knee. I don't know what that stuff. The other stuff is.
Mud, isn't it? Is it not mud?
McGrain.
Muck.
Danny McGrain.
Danny McGrain. Oh, the times we have, lads. You like that one?
Any more, Gav? Trying to be another one.
Any more? There is one other one. Do we want to do a little aside on Danny McGrain? People talk about that story about Rodgers saying, "Oh, as long as I'm here, there's a job here for you." And McGrain saying it never happened. When I first heard that story, I was like, why is everyone just assuming that Danny McGrain has the correct recollection of that story? Because he's a pretty old man now. Maybe he's, his memory's not what it was. But then the more you listen to Brendan and you get back into being accustomed to listening to Brendan talk, you just think, oh, jeez, I totally believe Danny McGrain.
Like I've heard, it's all hearsay though, isn't it? Nobody's interviewed Danny McGrain directly and asked him the question. No, it's all hearsay. And depending on who you listen to, I've heard people saying that, Danny says it's completely made up. But I've also heard people saying that they've spoken to Danny McGrain and he says, yeah, it's true. Or it's some variation of it's true. Maybe not those exact words, but, it just depends who you listen to. There's so much hearsay and rumours, and I know someone and someone knows someone, somebody's auntie's cousin's brother's sister. works at Celtic Park and knows everything. You know, we're a hell of a club for that sort of thing.
Yeah, Danny McGrain. I remember just looking at him and thinking he was such a man. He was always a man, wasn't he? He looked like a man, a fully
He got
grown
beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and way back when nobody else had beards, that was part of it. But he just looked like such a grown-up. You know, some players looked like wee boys. He was always a man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's like older people.
Kept out
Go ahead, Stephen.
Kept out the Scotland team by Standy Jardine, who was a vastly inferior right back to Danny McGrain, and they forced him to play Danny McGrain at left back, which wasn't his best position. So that was a sort of snapshot of what the Scotland setup was like at the time, and he wasn't the only Celtic player who suffered in that way. But there was a thing on Twitter the other day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, with some Hun claiming that Captain Tav was actually a better right back than Danny McGrain, and to use my catchphrase, I almost pissed myself laughing.
Yeah. But when you look at the football fans, certainly when I was a kid, everyone looked really old. And Danny McGrain playing, he was probably about 31. Bobby Lennox was about 32, but they looked like old men. You know, it's like the Italian job, and when they go and they're supporting England to do the heist, everyone looks really. You see a picture of a Charlie Charles on the wing. You know, Harry Enfield mock-up of footballers. But I suppose it's like anything else. I look at myself now and I still think I'm about 20, but I know I'm 53 going on 70.
You're very youthful, Brian.
No, I don't know about that, but you remember your teachers at school? They're only like, some of them are 10 years older than you, but they look like men, you know. But anyway, there we go.
There we go. Here's the last one.
Well, yep, that's an easy one, yeah.
That's pretty easy, isn't it? Not going to take too long. Does anyone not get that? You all get it, don't you? Okay, we'll let Brian answer this one.
Yeah, Neil Lennon. I thought it was Kyogo at one stage there and left, but yeah.
Neil Lennon.
How are Dunfermline doing? I know that Manyama got sent off in the first game and then they won the second game of the safe. Be good to have Lenny and Scott Brown up next season, but there's no chance of Dunfermline going up because they're way off.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here, so you can jump in there. A lot of people talking about Danny McGrain. Universally popular guy, wasn't he? I mean, nobody has a bad word to say about him.
Yeah. Contrary
to some of the other players that we've touched upon.
Speaking of Neil Lennon there, I think Neil Lennon's just not cut out for football management. I think when it comes down to, and you saw a bit of this in the game when Yama gets sent off, he lost his rag on the sidelines. I think he'd found his niche as a very, very good co-commentator and summariser on TV. And I know a load of former football players and managers, you know, eke out really, really great careers as football commentators and summarisers and media guys. And I think that's where Neil should be focusing his efforts. I just don't think I think he's just too emotional to be a manager.
He's pretty emotional, all right. What about your friend Charlie, Brian? Didn't last long at Celtic Hearts.
Yeah, Charlie just quit while he was behind, kind of thing. You know, he realised that, you know, maybe the level wasn't really there, and that could you be arsed? You know, and I imagine he wouldn't be on great money. Manager Killie Hearts probably about, I don't know, 40, 50 grand, decent enough money for, you know, Joe Blogg on the street, but Charlie would have been earning probably 15 grand a week at Celtic and then getting TV money and this, that, and the other. And it's probably, he's a young family. He's probably just thinking this is too much hassle. You know, I'm surprised Charlie didn't. I would employ him at the club for set pieces. There has to be a role. If Darren O'Day can get a gig in town, you know what I mean? There's definitely room for the likes of Charlie Mulgrew, who was set piece, you know, deliver the ball, put the ball in the sixpence. Great player.
All right. Well, I think we've just about covered everything on today's show. If anyone has anything else they'd like to add, what they're looking forward to, the
Can I
next
just do a
game.
shout out, Gav, to
Yeah.
a friend of ours, Diggs, who we were up to see, a friend of ours had a ACL injury. And he's a big fitness freak, and he runs marathons, does Ironman and stuff like that, a bit like myself. And he's going to be off his feet for 9 months. I know he's sitting at
Brutal for
home
him.
just depressed as, So we shout out to him. Wish you all the best in your recovery, young man.
Yes, good to see you, Diggs, after many years. And hopefully a Celtic World dropping into your inbox gives you a little lift to your spirits that you need.
Just maybe a final word for me as well. Just all these moaning-faced bastards who've spent the last week just gunning constantly. I mean, a lot of people who are of a similar age to myself who should know better. This is like
Is this me?
best. No, not you, mate. Not you. No one. Present company is accepted from this.
Thank God! Thank God for that.
People who should know that this is the high watermark of being a Celtic supporter. It really doesn't get any better than this. We're just about to bank yet another league title, yet another massive points total. As the Huns chances disappear down the toilet again, and we're very probably going to be sitting here at the end of May with another treble in the bank. So come on, get a grip, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody have any worry about going into, or any anxiety about going into the Champions League qualifiers? Because I don't. I think that team, regardless of who comes and goes, I think we're if we have to go away to Denmark and play Copenhagen or something like that, are you worried about not winning? I don't.
Well, so much water has to go under the bridge between now and then. I can't have an opinion on it. Depends who comes in, who goes out. We'll have to see. But there's no point in getting anxious about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as you say, there's a lot of water to run under the bridge, and there's a whole show we could do on the summer transfer window and what's required and whether the board have got the right strategy to do that. But we've not the time to cover that just now. But I think that'll all take care of itself over the summer months.
Definitely. And you know what else I would like to say is how quickly they forget, how quickly we forget. Nicholas Kuhn has been absolutely amazing for us for like half the season. He carried us. We wouldn't be in this position, cruising to another league if it wasn't for him. And the amount of hate he's had is ridiculous. I hope he stays. I think he's just a little bit out of form. It's not the end of the world. And he's an awesome player. And he's given us so much this season. And if he was to give us as much next season as he has this, it would be absolutely brilliant. So in praise of Nicholas Kuhn, I would say in defense of him would be my closing thought, David. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought he was okay when he came off the bench yesterday. He didn't have awful lot of time, but he showed a good bit of desire to get at his fullback, and I don't think he was that bad. I also don't think he was that bad against St Johnstone. He wasn't great, but I don't think he was as bad as people were making out, and I agree 100% with what you say, Gav.
Well, that's all I want to hear. That's what I'm going for in every show. I want to hear one person at least just say they 100% agree with everything I say. All right, that's the purpose of a sneaky forward.
I'll bear that in mind for next week.
All right, well, thanks, lads. It's nice to be back. Thank you very much, everyone who's in the chat. Good to hear from you as always. Some are a little bit behind us and answering the player questions late. That's okay. Great to see you all. Great to be back. Up the Celts. We'll see you on the next one.
Hail, Eddie.
Hail.